So 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is a, like I was joking, this is a 3D adventure game made for the PS2. Yes, it is canonical to the Neopets lore. I should point that out right away. Alright, so first of all, we're going to start off by going and grab some money. We're going to need it for later. So there's a hidden little hole in the cornfield over here. I'm going to make sure to hold down L2. It's like a budget version of the 3D Zelda Z-targeting. But for whatever reason, when you're using it, it lets you run off ledges without auto-hopping.
Yeah, so in this game, the way you're supposed to start out is herding animals, but we're not going to do that because we're speedrunning.
Right.
But another game that starts out with herding animals is Twilight Princess. And some other similarities with that game is that you have to save someone who wandered into the woods. Darkness spreads everywhere. You go on a quest to free the darkness and get an item that can defeat the enemy that caused the darkness, and then the item gets stolen. And if that didn't convince you, in both games you play as a wolf.
And on top of that, we have a forest escape.
Yeah, this game was released an entire year before Twilight Princess, though, which is...
Yeah, this game is basically the highlight of Twilight Princess. So we have a habit of naming all of our skips after stuff from the Zelda series. So this is our forest escape. So, Monster, correct me if I'm wrong, but the developers left in a fail-safe plane at y=0 on the map.
Yeah.
So if you fall too far, you can continue to walk out of bounds here. So we're gonna use this. Yeah, go ahead.
If there's no floors at all, then you will just... There will be an infinitely large floor at y=0.
Right. And so, if there is something above us, the game will try to put us on top of that. So I'm going to abuse that in order to sort of teleport up to this collision up here. And then I can jump through this wall magically to get back in bounds. And that puts us past, it puts us past the gate to get out of the tutorial. A really big farm, like Meridell Farms map. And then it allows us to skip some cutscenes as well. So one of the side effects of doing that is that we skip getting the wooden sword. So as a result, we are swordless for right now, so we don't have a way of dealing damage to any enemies or anything like that. You're supposed to get it at the end of the tutorial area. So we're actually going down here as to fulfill part of a side quest, where we get a golden rose for Prince Torin, I believe is his name. And if we return this to him, he'll give us 350 Neo points. We need 500, I think, it's 500, right? In order to buy a sword upgrade in Meridell, aka Castletown. Ooh, I got the boost too. That doesn't happen very often because that particular rogue has Stormtrooper aim, so he'll just whiff a lot.
Yeah. The only time he'll actually hit you is if you're not jumping. Then you'll instead get a damage not boost.
Yeah, you want to be airborne when you take damage so that you can continue the momentum after you get hit. Alright, so you're going to notice there's a lot of reverb going on and the music is completely cut out. That's normal. The game just does that here sometimes. So unfortunately we don't get to listen to the Meridell music at all. Or Meridell... Meridell Plains track, I don't remember what plays here because I haven't heard it actually load up in a while. Alright, so now we're going to make our way into Castletown. So on the way there, I'm just going to open the Moat Quick Select menu and menu over to the first moat we're going to pick up, just for ease of menuing later. This is just a sort of menuing segment. So there's our first moat right there, the little leaf friend. I'm going to jump into it because whenever you collect a moat for the first time, it shows a little text box with a cutscene, or rather, and if you jump into it, it will just skip that cutscene. So normally, what you're supposed to come here in order to deliver a parcel to the Castletown, just like in Twilight Princess. So what is magically going to appear out of our hands here after it gets robbed from us? So just a short little cutscene over here. We're eventually going to chase these guys down, even though we don't really need to, because all the shops and some of the other stuff we have to do here is closed until we do the sequence, so... Yeah, there's the parcel that just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, and the game like knows this. It's like complains in the debug output. Player does not have parcel. Funny.
Yeah. Alright, so this is also a really great spot where you get to hear the reverb if it's glitching out. But while we're on the way here, I'm going to be going for a strat called text jumping. Monster, if you want to go ahead and explain that. Okay, I'm going to have...
Basically, you jump, and then you talk to someone, and then you keep running, and then when you jump again, you get double the speed for a little bit. It saves like frames.
It also just looks really, really cool. You'll see me skip a couple of NPCs though, and not do the boosts off of them, because either when you talk to them, they generate a boatload of lag, or they'll have multiple text boxes and then you won't really save at any time.
Yeah, because this game is on a disc, lag is a pretty big component of this speedrun. And not like in a bad way, actually. The lag actually helps us. You'll see what I'm talking about later.
Yeah. Alright, so we're gonna go over to the weaponsmith, just buy a sword, and then we're gonna move on to the arena. So now, normally what's supposed to happen from a casual standpoint is you have a sword, you need to get a shield so you can apply to become a squire, because that's Tor's dream job for whatever reason. He really wants to be a knight. But from a speedrun perspective, we need to at least get a basic shield in order to beat the game. The final boss is unkillable unless you have a shield of some kind. Oh, I got blocked by the blue dragon. So you're gonna see me occasionally purposely drown in the water. In most places, unless it causes you to game over instantly, when you drown, it'll take you to a preset spot, which just happens to be right in front of the arena right here. Now, this first enemy, the rogue, is a little bit random. He has a couple different attacks or abilities he can use. I just want him to see him take a single stab at his rapier, so you kind of have to react to what he does, so I'm just going to kind of focus here for a minute. That's what we want. Okay, that's the attack you don't really want to see. That's fine. That was a standard fight. Alright, so doing this gets that the wooden shield, but we're actually going to complete all of the arena fights. And the reason why is it gets us a buttload of money if we do them all, which we're going to spend on consumables to speed up the run significantly.
Yeah, and if you can see what just happened here is that Jaxler just pulled out his sword and threatened the lady into setting up the next fight faster.
Yeah. For whatever reason, pulling out your sword allows you to move a little bit faster than having the little bit of startup for running. Do you want to explain shield canceling right here?
Yeah, sure. So basically, normally when you do a 3-hit combo like that, there's like a short delay in between combos before you can do another one. But if you hold shield, it cancels like the last hit a little bit, and you can start the next combo sooner. So it's faster.
Yeah, it's not only faster, and it allows you to also stun lock certain enemies. The Ixie Raider in this area, in this part, is the most notable example. But this is Sludgy. He's rather random and likes to be a complete troll, so let's see if he'll actually be nice. Oh, wow, that was actually really good. Cool.
Wow, you got your dodging game on point today.
Let's go. So that overhead collarbone breaker, I guess, has the ability to freeze you in place. And that's obviously really bad for speed purposes, so the fact that I was able to avoid those and he didn't do like a crouch where I couldn't hit him at all is really, really good. Now, funny enough, after that really tricky fight, this next fight is rather trivial. This is supposed to be a sort of mid to late game enemy, but he's gonna go down super quick.
Yeah, the lore says, I mean, you just matched the text, it says that he was reanimated from a previous champion, and I guess the champions back then must have, like, been not as good as champions today, because he's a pushover.
Alright, and this is the last one, which is the Wereloop. He's actually rather dangerous, and you don't want to shield cancel Because if you attack him too soon, he has the ability to block your attack and counter hit. And his attacks do a lot of damage for this point in the game, so I have to be rather careful here.
Yeah, and if you actually can shield cancel if you're frame perfect, but I highly do not recommend it.
Yeah, there we go through the arena. So that was actually a really solid arena, believe it or not. Rogue. Usually you can tell how good your arena is by how your rogue fight goes and how your sludgy fight goes, and both of those were either a little above average or perfect. The sludgy fight in particular was really, really good. So we're gonna head over here to the local potion shop and pick up a couple of potions. Now, the main one that we're gonna be picking up are 7 potions of Mirka speed. These allow you to get an insanely fast running speed, and they save 40 seconds per, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're also gonna buy a potion of power, which allows us to deal extra bonus damage to enemies, which won't come up until a bit later in the run.
Yeah, that's why we need the money. Make sure you donate so that Tor can buy more speed potions.
Oh yeah, I forgot that you're not supposed to text jump off of him. Like I said earlier, some of the NPCs cause an immense amount of lag when you talk to him. But now we're going to be doing things a little bit different from what maybe the developers normally intended. So, normally, like I said, you're supposed to become a squire and do all this stuff, yada yada yada. But now we're actually going to go to an area that's so the game's normally broken up into 4 acts. One with this character, one with another character who we won't see for a fair bit, and then the 3rd act they join together, and the 4th is kind of like the final world of the game, if you will. So what we're going to be doing is accessing an area of the map that isn't normally available to us until Act 3 from Act 1, which is going to allow us to get an upgrade that lets us break the game rather significantly. Starting off here, I have to do a frame perfect trick to get this sequence break going. So if you want to go ahead and explain those.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but if you hit the water with the sword exactly right, then you don't die.
Here we go.
You can just, like, go out of bounds. That.
There we go. So, this allows us to walk in the water and let us go even further out of bounds, and we're going to use this out of bounds geometry and stuff in order to get to the mines, which is that Act 3 area like I mentioned earlier. So I need to be very careful to navigate around specific loading triggers in order to make sure I don't load in the incorrect parts of the canyon. It's a really sort of complicated layer and like web of different loading triggers, so I need to walk over there, and then I see these canyons appear in the distance. That's when I know I'm close enough. If you walk too far, it spawns in some extra collision, which makes this part of the out of bounds much more difficult.
Yeah. Basically, if you accidentally touch any of this geometry, it activates the big loading triggers around it, and you can't get as close to this geometry as you could before. So you have to be a lot more careful if that happens.
Okay, perfect.
Now, then a little like platform's gonna spawn right here, and then you just stand. Oh,
ooh, that was close. We're good.
Yeah.
All is good. We got past it. So I was very, very close to clipping back in bounds there. I would have had to reload from a save if that had happened. But we're okay. So I gotta be very careful here. Perfect. Okay. So now all I need to do is I've loaded into mines now, and now I just need to jump here, and then I'll clip back inside. So that was really actually pretty good. Ooh, and we got a supernova. That's very lucky.
That's nice.
Should I use it on the chief, you think?
Maybe, but like, I'm just thinking you could get through the purple minions near the end like faster. The brutes.
Yeah, I'll save it for the brutes. Actually, good idea.
Yeah, because the Ixie chief is pretty easy.
Yeah, as you all will see very soon.
I mean, the Ixie chief is supposed to be like a boss fight near the end of the game. It's not difficult
really
at
easy.
all.
We're on the weakest armor in the game, and it doesn't do a lot of damage to us. Please, I want to see what's in here. Oh, completely useless. Perfect. So those pink crystals can spawn a bunch of rare drops. what we would really like to see are Mirka speed potions, potentially an extra potion of power, or just money. Money is also great because it allows us to potentially buy an extra one later, but moats are some higher level moats are also good drops too, so. So normally in this sequence you're supposed to save all of these villagers before you can actually fight this boss, I believe. But you can just take this rail line to get over here, and the game really doesn't stop you, which is kind of funny. Alright. Going to take a safety save just in case.
Ooh, that was...
Yeah, that was a little sketchy, but we're good.
Yeah.
Because if you fall in the lava, it's an instant game over. No backsies, unfortunately, so... Which, I guess they get points for realism. But this is another fight where I'm gonna abuse shield canceling to stun lock this guy. If I do, it's actually much more tight than the Ixierator we had to fight earlier, so...
Well, actually, I wouldn't call it points for realism because some other lava doesn't actually game over you, and some water doesn't.
Interesting. But I got the perfect quick kill, so that was really sick. That looks really simple, but he can find some interesting ways to mess with you there. But yeah, from here, all we need to do is rescue the mayor, and we're good to go. Which is kind of hilarious. So we're going to leave all the rest of the villagers to rot in the cages, I guess.
They can find their own way out.
Yeah, it's all good. Mayor will let them out.
Yeah, exactly.
This run's actually been pretty solid so far, which is kind of miraculous considering that this game can be kind of rude sometimes. Alright, so after we sit through another spinning disc load here, on our way back we're actually going to pick up a couple more moats. We never really explained how the moats work, so I think now's a good opportunity. So moats can be applied to your weapon, your armor, or your shield, and confer elemental properties on them. So if you put them on your weapon, it'll deal elemental damage. So it's kind of simple where it's just like, oh, if something's weak to fire, it'll deal extra damage. Or if you're getting hit with a fire attack, you'll be resisting it a bit more. And for the weapons, if you use a charge attack, it can you can use like a special attack too. Now the Nova motes have the property of being super effective against every kind of Neopet / enemy in this game. So they're very, very useful, but they're a bit rare to find, so we want to make sure that we have at least our Nova mote to the end of the run for the final boss. That's the really important part.
The only time like the charge attacks are useful in the speedrun is when you're forced to do one during the tutorial, and also you can use the water mode charge attack during the minion fight. It makes it a little bit easier if you do that, although it's really tricky to get to.
Yeah.
You have to eat 3 purple jobbies, and then you have to charge up the attack like right in front of the minion, and then hope the minion doesn't move away while you're charging it, and then you have to really quickly switch to a wind mode. Yeah, I don't think Jaxler goes for this trick, and I don't really go for it either.
Yeah. Alright, so... Another text jump over here. And so, yeah. That one, he's on like a walk cycle, so you have to get to him quickly enough or else you won't be able to hit it. So now that we have the cloak is a very, very broken item, as you're about to see. So I'm going to do a, this is for a minor thing, it's just to skip a cutscene. But I'm going to be doing something called a mega jump. So let me go ahead and get
basically, you can jump, and then the cloak will reset like the player's state, and then you can jump again, like in like super rapid succession. And there's like a pause buffer involved as well.
Nice.
So, and the purpose of this is to jump over a trigger that causes like a cutscene. It only saves a couple of seconds.
It also looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, though, that's like not the main thing it's used. At least for you'll see. That's one of the places it gets used right away. You'll see one more of those jumps once we start off Act 3. But now our goal is to get to the end of Act 1. So normally you get to the end of Act 1 by becoming a squire, and then eventually becoming a knight. And then you eventually go to a place called Illison's Glade after doing a bunch of story progression related stuff. But we're going to skip right to Illison's Glade, which will allow us to skip the whole being a squire in the first place. So I'm going to do another drown warp right here. This just eliminates some of the backtracking. Ooh, blue guy spawned in. Nice. Oh, and I missed it. Lol. Not a huge deal.
I'm pretty sure that blue guy has a name.
I don't remember his name. I usually just mash through the text box. So something kind of funny about this game is that it also steals sort of some ESS position stuff from the Zelda games, which refers to holding an angle that is just slightly left or right of the dead zone. And so you'll see me use this to be able to use the L2 strafe while being able to turn with the camera. Because if you're holding too far forward, you'll just pivot in place. But if you are holding too far to the left, you'll do a diagonal lock, and it's not the same full speed. And that just helps me to avoid some bumps in the road and allow me to continue at full running speed, which is faster than being airborne.
Now, here's a fun time. Jaxler is now going to attempt a frame-perfect trick. TM.
TM. That's absolutely right. Alright, let's see if I get this first try.
Yeah, that would be really sick if you got it first try.
We'll see here. Alright. Off the ledge. Ooh, there we go. Okay.
Alright, let's do this.
Got it. Nice. Frame perfect trick. First try.
Perfect. First try. The frame that's perfect is half a second long. Really easy.
It is a bit of a timing thing, to be fair, but it just goes to show. Go ahead.
So what just happened right there is when you walk off a ledge slowly, there is an animation where you like fall and grab the ledge. In this animation, there's no gravity, and instead of gravity, there's like a 0.2 feet per frame downward push. And so if you walk off the ledge and you have upward velocity from jumping, the jump velocity will counteract this push, and you'll go in a straight line.
Yeah.
And the cloak lets us do a frame-perfect jump, while having our player state reset at just the right time for this to be possible.
Yeah, and so, to fill in another thing, you might be a little confused how I got up here so fast. So, what happened there is that, this is like the treetops area. Normally you need to save all of the other knights that got captured by the wereloops. But what I did is, part of the one of the platforms actually extends, its collision close enough to where I can do a similar thing to the first out of bounds, where the game sees a piece of collision that I'm under and decides, okay, I'm gonna get you back in bounds. And it allows me to warp straight up to the treetops without having to save the knights. Which also saves a bunch of time. Although, to be fair, I think if we get over here this way, the knights aren't even spawned in, if I remember correctly. So, it might just be flat required in order to be able to do this. I also had to go to the start of the area in order to hit a crucial trigger in order to spawn in Narfus, who's the boss at the end over here. So I'm gonna go straight to my Supernova moat. An interesting quirk of several of the bosses is that they don't drain your moat usage at all. So you can just hit them with your most powerful moats. Now charge attacks like take moat energy, I suppose, but this guy doesn't. So this is Narfus. He's a rather tricky fight, so I'm gonna let Monster handle the explanation.
Well, you just have to hit him. Basically,
yeah.
after he hits you twice, there is a cutscene that plays, and then you just keep fighting. The annoying thing that can happen sometimes is you can jump up into the treetops, and that's really annoying.
Yeah, usually what I'm trying to do is hit him with some sword swings when he's in the animation of it being about to jump, and that will cancel that.
Yeah, and sometimes you can get like a multi-hit that's like really sick when it happens, because it's exactly as it sounds. It's just like hitting multiple times at once. So it sounds really sick.
Okay, yeah, one of the problems with this boss is that his hit detection is horrible. The game tries to do like an auto-targeting thing for him. But it fails to auto-target correctly. There he goes. Okay. That was a fight, but we'll take it for a marathon.
At least he didn't spend 5 minutes in the treetop.
That is true. That can happen sometimes. Alright, so activating this cutscene sets a crucial flag that allows us to progress the story to a point where we can go finish up Act 1. Now, something we're going to do after we get out of this cutscene is make a short little detour to grab a neg from one of the plants over here. And the reason why is that, for whatever reason, that sequence of the game... I don't know exactly why. I don't know if we have figured it out quite yet. But for whatever reason, after this point, your ledge fly is kind of in a weird, broken state. So you need to... I'll just grab this for safety, why not? If you pick something up, it will actually fix your ledge fly. So...
Yeah, sometimes that bush won't spawn any negs, so that's just like 30 seconds of time lost right there, just from bad RNG.
Yeah.
I have to find a different bush.
So we're gonna do another ledge fly right there to get out of bounds. And then, okay, we should be fine. Yep, okay.
So now we have like a little bit of a problem. So normally we'd have become a squire, which unlocks the ability to get into the castle, but we haven't become a squire, so we can't get into the castle. So we need another way in. Now, the way this used to be is that you have to go all the way to Market Town, fight some Dark Knights, defeat the Black Knight, then you have to run back to Meridel, get in the sewers. You'd have to like navigate an area in complete darkness before you'd end up in the castle.
It was awful.
It sucked, especially fighting the Dark Knight. They were like the hardest 3 enemies in the game. Anyways, but recently I found this loading trigger that just takes you into the castle and it's like out of bounds. And the reason it exists is they wanted to be able to, at some point, to be able to get in by breaking open the wall of the castle, I think. But they removed this at some point, but they left the loading trigger there. So we are just going to use it for our own purposes, get into the castle.
So right here I'm going to cozy myself up against this tunnel, which is going to load in Shadowglen Woods. And then I'm immediately... okay.
Yeah, the reason we...
Should be fine.
That was close. Anyways, the reason we have to hit that tunnel is it unloads Meridel Plains and gets it out of the way, and it also activates the loading trigger that we need. It also activates a lot of other loading triggers that we are going to have to avoid by running in a big square.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it a little safer than just a tad safer than I normally do, just to make sure. Because if you load this back in incorrectly, it can be a little yikes. 1, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1000. Look. Okay, go. All right. So I'm using specific timing cues and visual cues in order to know exactly when to turn. For this one, I wait for, there's like 4 castle spires in front of me. I wait for the 3rd one to go off the top of the camera, and then I make a 90-degree turn to the right about now. Then there's a big dome, 1002. Okay, I'll just stop right here. And then, okay, perfect.
Right before this marathon right now, I was actually working on a better... Oh, we don't usually spawn up there. Anyways, I was working on like a different route for this skip. It might be a bit faster, but I don't know. I drew a crappy Microsoft Paint diagram and it looks shorter visually, but we'll have to time it.
So we just did a ledge fly off the bed in order to get it out of bounds, and the y=0 happens to be up really high, which allows me to fall into this chamber, which activates the cutscene for the escape sequence. Now we're going to do the collapse skip, because of course it's a Zelda game, we gotta have a collapse skip, right? We're going to do probably the most difficult ledge fly in the entire run, the Ottoman fly right here.
That ledge fly is really hard. Like I tried like sideways ledge flying, regular ledge flying.
First try, nice.
That was second try, but whatever.
First try every time.
first try would be not being hit by the fairy sister. So
true, but that was really fast. So the longer it takes, the more likely they are to hit you and stuff. So that was really clean. You have to be right on the edge, because if you get if the further you are away from the ledge, the more likely you are to. Sorry for the noise. My phone is trying to tell me I'm dying. But normally, the further away from a ledge you are, if you get a ledge fly at all, it will cause you to have a lower angle ledge fly, which in some cases can be useful. But for our purposes, it can be make or break for that particular ledge fly. So there, the end of the escape sequence happens to be right through that wall, so it lets us skip the whole sequence, which is pretty dope. So this is Act 2. This is our other player character, Roberta. She is a sorceress who left her training wand at home. So we're going to start off by getting 3 wand-making ingredients. He's going to give us a bottle that we need to get one of them. And then we have to go to climb a tree to grab a very special stick. Only this stick in the entire forest.
Yeah, you can't just use any stick. It has to be that specific stick. It's used for making a wand.
Oh my goodness. I thought I was over the branch. It's all good.
That's fun.
Throwing for content. There we go.
Just lose a little bit of time.
Alright, let's see if I hit this. Got it. I usually don't jump there because you'll end up being too high in the air and you'll do a roll as soon as you hit the ground, which ends up losing you time.
Does it?
It's either you lose a tiny bit of time or it breaks even.
I don't know, I always jump there because it gets you like a ton of speed and you go quite some distance.
That's valid. Alright, so in opposition to our current or previous character, Roberta has a bit of a deep wallet. So she starts out with a little over 1k Neo points, and luckily for us, there's a shop where we can buy some potions of miracle speed. So we're gonna get 2 for this segment for free, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, because Roberta is the king's niece
of Brightvale,
not to be confused with the other king that just got taken over by the darkest fairy.
This game has very deep lore. Alright, so I'm grabbing a light mote here. Something we didn't quite mention yet is that you need to have, for speed purposes, 1 of each element mote by the end of the run. And what that allows you to do is, there's a puzzle towards the very end of the run that involves using 1 of each element mote to activate some switches. And normally the game will give you some if you don't have one, but it's faster to just have them all already.
Yeah, now we have to learn how to use a wand, and once we're done with this, for some reason the game will give us a new dress called the Neopets Garb. That's what it's called. It doesn't say that it's called the Neopets Garb.
Roberta's name is also absolutely terrible. So there's our new change of clothes. We just did a deck change right in the middle of the library. And now, cutscene to be skipped. Highly recommend looking up and going and watching some of these cutscenes because this game has some FMV cutscenes that have not exactly aged super well. They're a bit of a treat to watch, but unfortunately skipping them is much faster for the purposes of the speedrun. So we're going to be doing just that.
Yeah, you know you have a great game when the actual like in-game graphics look better than the full motion video cutscenes. Like the cutscenes are like low resolution and they run at half the frame rate or a quarter, I think.
Yeah. It's pretty rough. So we're gonna make our way to the Fairyland Marriott Hotel Suites. Gonna go take a quick nap, grab a storm mote on the way, and then after I climb into bed, I can actually continue to keep running.
Yeah, basically, when we took the nap, the Darkest Fairy kind of took over Fairyland, and now it's overrun around this darkness. So now we have to save some old lady for some reason.
Who turns out to be the lady we talked to earlier, whose cat we were supposed to save. We didn't save the cat.
We never saved the cat, so yeah, I guess we're killing the animals here.
Sorry, y'all. I wish I could go turn off my phone right now, but it is currently out of arm's reach. Sorry about that. My phone is having attachment issues right now. So we're not going to pop the other potion just yet, because there's a couple of mandatory puzzles we have to do that would require us to not make full use of the potion. When we're planning where to use these potions, it's important to make sure that A, we're avoiding being airborne, and B, making sure that we're not doing these kinds of like stand in place or cutscene type of deals. Just to make sure that we get the full run speed out of the potion. So big leap of faith down here. Now for these pushable objects, I'm going to be flipping between up and up and to the left or right, and that will allow me to cancel the pushing animation and push it faster. You can also use it to push things into walls, but it doesn't really matter. It'll most of the time auto snap to where it needs to go.
Yeah, sometimes when you like let these down, sometimes they'll land on that poor Noil down there. Luckily this time the Noil is fine. But it does happen.
Shut off my phone. Okay, I did it during the cutscene, but I ripped out my earbuds, so no game audio for me to rip.
Oof. Well, you don't need game audio anymore because we got rid of darkness.
That is true.
So after this, there's gonna be a cutscene where the Darkest Fury is like, "What is making that infernal racket?" And then she like does it. She's not at the old lady, and we can go save her now.
Yeah, I'm holding down L2 as I go up the top and bottom steps of these stairs, just to avoid those auto hops. Like I said, your run speed is fastest, and being in the air, you can't hold down the run button and get the speed boost, so. There's little places where you might see the camera just like slightly jitter. That's usually when I shift into L2, the combat strafe. Nice shot, dude. He's been hitting me a lot lately.
And now we're gonna save the old lady. And now, after we save the old lady, what we have to do is go to all the way to the west staircase, only to find out that, gasp, we can't go out there, so we have to use the endless staircase instead. Because if you try to go directly to the endless staircase, it just says it's locked, so you have to trigger this.
Oh, my camera got flipped around. It's a little bit tricky right there to squeeze the most amount of movement when you're trying to walk in the fade out.
You can keep walking.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Oh, you got hit with slow.
It's not a huge deal right now because I still have a bit of my speed potion. But once it wears off, I'll be moving at a decreased movement speed. Normally you can cancel the effect by swapping characters once you have Tor back with you, but I can't quite do that yet, so it should be wearing off soon. Yeah, wait, yeah, all the way down to the staircase.
It doesn't matter that we're slow because this is a marathon.
I suppose you're right. Alright, so when I'm slowed down, you'll see me jump, because the aerial speed actually turns out to be faster. Oh, I forgot to notice that.
I got it. Yeah.
There we go. So what I'm doing right here is that at about a halfway point between each flight, there is a trigger that will cause the next part. The puzzle is that you have to go down or up the stairs depending on which hand is open, but the password is the same thing every time. So if you know which way you're going, you can do the bare minimum to get it to flip.
Yeah.
Each part of the combination lock, if you will. Alright, so there's Act 2. So now we get to reunite with Tor and get our ledge flying back, and now we get to do a bunch of broken stuff again. There's a lot of plot that we're skipping here.
So down here, like on this beach that we have just arrived at, there is some red minions. those red minions are a little bit boring. What they should have had is the purple, like, scaly flying things, but those got removed and replaced with these boring red minions.
You get snanked, that was really close. So we're doing another ledge flight here because there's an invisible wall that remains here until you are intended to defeat them. But that's really slow, like monsters say boring, so... Okay. Not bad.
Yeah, this is the part soon is coming up is another one of those mega jumps. We can do a ledge fly there instead, but ledge fly doesn't look as cool.
And it's just a tad bit slower.
Yeah. And as you can see, during this mega jump, there is a pause buffer. During one of his runs, Jaxler accidentally hit the quit button and then circled to confirm the quit during a speed run. It was really funny.
Yeah, it was not one of my most proud moments, I will...
So yeah, now we're gonna get back into the castle again.
Yeah, so we're essentially gonna be doing the same skip that we did last time in order to get out of bounds and get into Meridel Castle. Surprise, surprise, the door is still locked.
And this time the door is locked because it's actually it's just locked in Act 3.
That's really unlock. Thanks.
You can. Wow. Okay. Anyways, you can actually unlock the door if you get into the castle, but that involves actually getting into the castle. And that's only in Act 3. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I didn't get to use the full potential of that speed potion. Because as soon as you drown, you lose that potion effect, which is annoying from a time-saving standpoint. But it's okay, my PB did that too, so I don't feel as bad.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm just gonna kind of focus here and make sure you don't have some scary things happen with the camera again.
Yeah, if you accidentally go too far into that tunnel, then you end up in bounds, and that's kind of bad. There is a backup strat, but it like wastes like a solid minute.
Yeah, it's really rough. Alright, it should be relatively good to go. I'm cutting it a little too close here for me to comfort. I should be fine, but like, I don't want to... Yeah, okay, I was too close. Alright.
Oh yeah, just run back and just be next to the tunnel for a little bit.
Okay.
Actually, I think at this point you cross... Yeah, there you go. Now you can go back.
Yeah, I think we should be good.
Do the thing. As soon as you see Shadowglen Woods reappear, you're good.
Yeah, this looks good.
This is the only real part where you can go like, oh no, I screwed up, better go back and try that again. Because after this, if you go a little bit too close, you will end up in Meridel Village.
Yeah.
Not where you want to be.
1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So long as you're aimed at these castle spires, you should be fine, but I'm just, like I said, playing it a bit safe for marathon safety.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn. 1,000, 2, 1,000, stop.
If you go too far, you can end up in the Meridel.
Oh, I ended up on here. Interesting.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, where exactly you stop determines where you spawn in. And if you spawn in like on the wrong side of the bridge, you have to go around it, which loses a little bit of time. So now in here, we have to be very careful with the next ledge fly to make sure that the ledge flying police don't catch us ledge flying without a license and crash the game.
Yeah. This should be fine.
Because if you do it wrong, the game crashed. But this time it was fine. So,
alright. Yeah, do you want to explain this?
Yeah, so basically what we just did is we went into this room from out of bounds, which means that these Faerie sisters aren't activated, which means we can just kill them at our leisure without them fighting back at all. Well, we can't actually kill them yet, we can pre-damage them.
Yeah, normally with the equipment we have, this fight is very difficult, and it's very easy to die. Not only is this kind of faster for our purposes, but it also is much more safe and consistent. Way funnier too.
You're actually normally forced to get a better sword by this point, but because we didn't go through the ancient sewers, that kind of didn't happen, so we were still stuck with the worst sword.
Alright, so now off of this ottoman, I'm going to be doing a sideways ledge fly in order to clip out of the chamber, because the door is currently still closed. Nice, I got it, okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be switching over to water mode, so we need to do this in order
The trigger that starts the fight doesn't show up until it
These guys are really annoying.
And by the way, if you're wondering why we couldn't do this in Act 1, these Faerie sisters only spawn in Act 1. They don't spawn in Act 1. And the flag that's set to make them spawn is set by ending Act 2. And the only way to do that is to do Yeah, this is where having that extra supernova mode comes in handy, because now we can just fly these a lot faster.
Oh, he grabbed me.
Oh. Because normally at this point we didn't switch over to the serve our supernova mode. Instead we can just We haven't actually switched to the mode. Oh,
gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh.
Ah, get some jumpies.
This is another enemy where the aim track, or the aim assist, really doesn't do a great job of helping you out.
Yeah, this is the enemy where I mentioned you can use the water mode to freeze hammer. And the other benefit of freezing is that the sword does a lot more damage, but the button inputs to do that is really tricky. Like, you have to eat purple juppies and then switch back to red juppies for safety, and then you have to equip the right mode, and you have to stand next to him and hope he doesn't run away while you do the charge attack, and then switch to the wind modes to do more damage. So it's really tricky, but it's doable, but we're not doing it.
So now all of these Faerie sisters are gonna die in like one hit.
Because we pre-damaged them. Go.
So now if you get lucky and get extra money drops, at this point in the run you can actually purchase an extra Mirka speed potion from the vendor, but if I remember correctly, yeah, we only got like, we don't have a lot of money. So we're gonna have to skip on that.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're essentially just going through the rest of Faerie Land and completing the rest of the Act 3. So there's not too much going on. You're gonna get to see me do this a similar strat to what I did with the the infinite staircase. But that's really.
How much money do you have?
I had 173.
If you had gotten lucky and if you had opened the chest earlier and gotten lucky enough, you could have had enough money for an potion.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Not a huge deal though.
Yeah, the potion only saves 40 seconds.
And considering you have to go out of your way to grab the chest, and there's a chest opening animation.
Oh.
Not always worth it. Alright, so that's what the strat should look like. 1, 2, boom. Now, normally at this point of the game, you acquire Fiora's wand, which is like the thing that's supposed to allow you to defeat the Darkest Faerie. But
this is the Neopets equivalent of the fused shadows from the Twilight Princess, because it gets stolen from her.
Yeah, and we're normally supposed to. Yeah,
it would get stolen if we actually had it, but we don't have it.
Yeah.
The cutscene will pretend we do, because you're not supposed to go to gate without it.
Yeah, and we were supposed to go save like a bunch of other places, because normally you're not supposed to be able to save Mirrodel until the very end of Act 3. But if you just, the game just assumes that you saved everyone else if you managed to get there somehow, so we got there somehow. Alright, this is the last part of... Oh, I don't like him. Go to the panel controls. Okay, this is a very simple 3 puzzle. 1.
Yeah, just left, left, right.
2, 3. And we're good. Don't hit me. And as soon as we hit this trigger, that's the end of Act 3. Alright, one more act to go. We're almost at the end of the run. This run has actually gone really, really well so far.
So if you've actually played this game, you'll know that Act 4 is pretty long, and it involves this really annoying sewer shrine. But we're not going to do any of that, because the end... There's a little physics joke in here. So normally in Act 4, there's a lot of distance to cover, but there's not much displacement, because you end up right where you started, which is in here. So we're just going to cut out the distance, just end right here with a ledge fly.
Yeah, so the elevator that you get access to after saving Altador is just right here. So this lets us skip right down to the trials. And now, like any other good Zelda speedrun, we also have a trial skip, which is essentially doing another ledge fly, but it's going to be a little bit more of a complicated setup than you might expect. Because, a lot, like, there's supposed to be an elevator here, in the middle of this room once you complete the trials. So if you fall in there, you game over, right? So I wasn't supposed to quit the fire mode, but that's okay. So I do a ledge fly aimed over here so that I hit a small piece of geometry next to the tunnel. And then I can jump over to the, to this tunnel over here and land on here. And normally, even if I were to, void out, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So
like
right,
I said,
yeah.
This game is really inconsistent about what game overs and what doesn't. So now we just have to hit all these with the appropriate modes.
Yeah, and I'm using the R2 attack with the menu in order to quickly swap between modes without losing any momentum.
Yeah.
And then the Supernova is going to go on the shield and the sword. This is just for prepping for the final boss fight coming up soon. But that's like mostly Act 4 done. Now all we have to do is go finish off our super climatic boss fight with Ganondorf. I mean the Darkest Faerie.
This is the part where we actually need the shield that we got during the arena. If you don't have the shield, you can't finish this fight. Yeah,
so similar to the Dead Man's Volley and the Ganondorf fight at the end of Ocarina of Time, we need to reflect some shots back at the Darkest Faerie. Now, each shot normally has an elemental alignment based on its color, but Supernova modes can reflect any type of element. So I'm going to turn around, boom, 1, 2, and now I just repeat this a couple more times.
This is like the most anticlimactic boss fight ever.
Yeah, and on top of that, an upgraded weapon doesn't even deal extra damage. It's a set amount of hits. So now it auto-switches us to Roberta, and then we're going to just nail her with arcane missiles, and the boss fight is done. That was actually pretty solid other than taking a hit. Alright!
So basically, what's happening here is that we're freezing the Darkest Faerie into stone. Now the reason we got into this situation is because she was frozen in stone before, but the spell that causes this failed and she became unfrozen. So, I mean, doing the exact thing that just failed is probably not a good solution. But
yeah.
Anyways, it's the end
Alright,
of the game.
Yeah, so we're at the end of the game. Time is coming up as soon as I lose control of my character up in this next coming part here. So get ready on time. And time. Alright, that is Neopets' Darkest Faerie, everybody. I've been Jaxler, and while we're here, we may as just go ahead and look at one of these FMV cutscenes. 54:33? Holy crap, that's really good. Okay, for reference, I PB'd yesterday with a time of a 53:23. So that's about a minute off the record, which means that this run was actually really, really good. Wow, that's really sick. So yeah, instead of being thrown at the bottom of the ocean, now she's a piece of decoration to bring in more tourists for Fairyland. Anyway, that was Neopets' The Darkest Faerie. I've been Jaxler. Thank you, Monster, for hopping on commentary with me. And also just for finding so much stuff in this game. Before I go, shoutouts to Cole, who, even though he currently doesn't have the record, will probably get it very soon, because he's nuts at this game. Shoutouts to the Neopets Discord. If you want to learn this run, you should join the Neopets Discord. There should be a link on the speedrun.com page. If there's not, just send me a message. Send one of us a message and we'll get you the link. If you're interested in catching more runs of this game, follow me on Twitch, Jaxler1. I do this game and a bunch of other obscure games that you've never heard of. Thank you so much to the Valuethon staff for always putting on a great show. This was a lot of fun. Before I go, just going to show one more thing. I have another run in this marathon on Sunday at 5:45 p.m. scheduled for right now. I'm going to be doing SpongeBob's Truth or Square. That run is super sick, so y'all should tune in for that. And I believe we have Crosscode coming up next, so that's going to be really, really sick. Really cool run. Make sure you stay around for that. But yeah, that's all we've got. So thank you for having us, everybody.